episode 10 of Holding the Sticks. Hi, in case you couldn't hear that, I'm Emily. Welcome to episode 10 of Holding the Sticks, a hockey-themed fiber arts podcast. And welcome to my craft room here in the Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina. Today is Monday, February the 11th, 2013, and I have a lot to talk about today. I'm really excited. If you would like to reach me, you can find me on Ravelry as Shanti Dragon, and on Twitter and Plurk as Emily3022. Let's get started in with the pregame report. Before I forget, I wanted to share with you what I'm wearing today. It is game day. The Carolina Hurricanes will take on the New York Islanders in New York this evening, so I'm wearing my team colors. I usually wear gear, the team gear, but you've seen me in t-shirts and jerseys for the last several weeks, so I thought you might like to see some knitwear today. And I knitted this sweater to be a hockey themed sweater. So this is what I call my storm warning sweater, and it is actually the Melrose Peacoat by Cecily Glowick MacDonald. It is in the book New England Knits, Timeless Knitwear with a Modern Twist. And I will actually, if there's time in next week's episode, I will review that book. I absolutely love it. So I'd love to share that with you. I used brown sheep lamb's pride superwash bulky yarn to make this sweater. So it's very warm. And it's in the Red Wing colorway, and I used the size 10 US or 6mm needle to do the sweater. I modified it in that there is a rose motif on the back of the original pattern that I did not do. I just did a straight stockinette stitch across the back instead of doing the motif. This was the first sweater that I knit with set-in sleeves, and I think I did a pretty good job. Because this is a bulky yarn, you can kind of see that the seam is kind of bulky as well, but I thought it really turned out pretty well. The reason I call this my storm warning sweater is that if you're familiar at all with hurricanes and the flags that they use for warnings on the beaches, a hurricane warning flag has, it's a red square with a black square in the middle. For a tropical storm it's one, and for a hurricane there's two on top of the other. But I looked forever to find these square buttons to go on my red sweater to look like the storm warning flags. So I'm kind of excited about that. This sweater has a lot of issues. I don't wear it very often because you can see the buttons don't stay straight. They just have two little holes, so I couldn't do a more firm or steady sort of stitching on job. I just had the two holes to work with. You probably can't see that very well, but I think if I were to go and use, these are actually snaps. There's no buttonholes, and I think if I used a larger snap that would help a lot. Maybe using some grosgrain ribbon like the Knitmore girls have taught on their podcast. That might stabilize it a little bit. And the other issue with this sweater is at the bottom edge, and I don't know if you can see this or not, but one side is longer than the other because of all of this. I believe this is moss stitch, where it's just knit one, purl one, and then the opposite on the next row to give it that bumpy texture. There's a big panel of it on this wider side here, See, it's kind of an asymmetrical sweater. And then it's just a small little button band on the other side, so it kind of makes the knit fabric kind of not really bunch up, but it makes it shorter on one side than the other, and it bothers me. So I don't wear it as much as I maybe ought to. And also, when I lost weight, this sweater was way too big on me, so I actually intentionally put it in the dryer to try and shrink it up a little bit, and it worked, and it didn't ruin the sweater at all. But it's very fuzzy, which it always was. I think that's just the way this yarn is. But anyway, enough blabber about my sweater. I thought y'all would be interested to know, though, since it is a knitting and fiber arts podcast. Let's get into the pregame report. I have several thank yous this week. Of course, I always want to thank all of my viewers and those of you who are communicating with me on social media and in the Ravelry group. You make what I do worth it, and I have fun doing this, or I wouldn't be doing it, but y'all are just the icing on the cake. Thank you so much. And I also wanted to thank 2 podcasters who I'm aware mentioned me in the past week. Hippie Penguin mentioned me on her podcast, and Heartland Knits also mentioned me on hers. Apparently Heartland Knits is also having a Valentine's Day knit-along in her group. I have not watched her podcast yet. I'm really looking forward to doing that. But if you want to go check out her podcast or her podcast group, and you can double dip in her knit along if you would like for Valentine's Day. So I'm not sure about like when her start and end dates are or anything like that, but go check it out. I plan on doing it after I record today. So I do want to apologize for several people who contacted me early last week and I didn't get back to them until yesterday. It has been a crazy week, and I'll talk more about that in the show, of course. So over the past week, I've gotten a lot accomplished. I finished a spinning project that has been almost a year in the making. I had a bad reaction to some caramel corn. I'll talk about that in the training room. I went to a checkers hockey game yesterday and had so much fun. I got to meet up with Zach Dalpe one last time because I'm sure he's not going to be with the checkers very much longer. And you know, the guys, once they get up to the NHL level, are not very accessible, to say the least. So I had to talk with him a little bit, and I'll talk about that in the hockey talk, of course. And I took on some extra work this week, which is why I've been so busy. We'll talk about that in the post-game chatter. There's a lot more I'm going to talk about today as well, but let's just get into the show, and I'll tell you all about it. Welcome to the first period in the zone. I've got quite a bit of developing play today. Actually, just 3 projects. That's not huge, but it's enough for me. It's keeping me busy. The first project I have on my needles is the Beekeeper's Quilt, which I've talked about the last few weeks. And this is an ongoing blanket project made with scrap yarn that will probably take me several years to finish. I am aiming right now for a twin-sized blanket with this project. So I finished 3 little hexapuffs this week. It was slow at the beginning of the week at work, so I had a lot of knitting time, but then later in the week it got really busy. So, and I haven't woven in my ends yet. I really need to be better about that because it's not that hard, and if I save them all until the end, it will just be a terrible, terrible chore. So I need to sit down later today and finish that up. So the first square is this one, or not square, but hexapuff. That's the first hexapuff that I finished. This is made with leftover yarn from a pair of socks I made for my husband. It's a MCN merino cashmere nylon blend. I forget the maker of the yarn. It was an independent dyer, but I bought it at a local yarn shop. Not the most local yarn shop to me. I bought it in Abingdon, Virginia, which is about an hour and 15 minutes drive from here. It's a great little shop if you ever have a chance to go there. I really enjoy it when I get out there. I go about once a year, I think. This is another hexapuff that I finished. And this was a scrap that was sent to me by a friend. And here is another. This is the last one that I finished. And this is actually made with a bamboo sock yarn. Wendy yarn, something like that. I'm not very good at keeping track of all of these scraps, so I apologize. But I have a pair of socks made out of this as well. In that first little hexapuff, my husband likes short socks, like ankle socks, so I had lots of that yarn left and knit myself a hat as well, that I'll show you at some point. That's the hat that I always wore to jog in when it was cold, before I finished my Sportmate, Lorna's Laces Sportmate hat recently. So those are the 3 hexapuffs that I finished this week. I have also been working on Mork. The Beekeeper's Quilts is designed by Tiny Owl Knits on Ravelry. So it's a great little pattern. I've enjoyed it. A wonderful little travel project. So I have been working on my Mork sweater, which will look like this when it's done. It's by Julia Farwell Clay, and I'm using Barocco Ultra Alpaca in the Redwood Mix colorway, which is number 6281, using a US size 6 4mm needle. And as you'll all know, I finished the back last week, so I'll just show you that real quick again. So in case you missed last week's episode, I know I sometimes miss episodes. But there is the back. And I remember I told you I hoped I would finish the front this week. I didn't even come close. I didn't even make it to the cabled part of the front. So here's where I am. Here we go. I'd say I'm probably about 2/3 of the way to where I'll start the cable detail on the front. So this is still my hockey knitting because it's just a rib, you know, several knits and then a couple purls. So it's really easy. I don't have to look at it when I knit it, so I can, you know, be all into a game and still knit on this. The only problem is when the game gets exciting, my gauge changes a little bit, so I have to be careful with that. All of you other hockey fans who are knitters probably know exactly what I'm talking about. So there is Mork. And I did another square for my Knit Sampler Afghan by Coates & Clark. This is a knit along with Apple Blossom, the Apple Blossom and You podcast, which is hosted by Apple Blossom SF on Ravelry. And we do 2 squares per month. She is doing the Great American Erin Afghan, but because that book either went out of print or got back ordered, she told us we could do any 12-inch squares we wanted to. Now the Knit Sampler Afghan it's actually 10-inch squares, so I'm knitting on an extra garter stitch border on each square. I finished a square this week. It is the square number 3 in the pattern, and here it is. So exciting! And this was in the navy colorway of the Red Heart Soft yarn, using a US size 8 5mm needle. And I just thought I would show you the other 2 squares that I finished before really quick, just so you can get a general idea of where this blanket is going. There's one. And this is all with the Red Heart Soft yarn in different shades. And here is the other one. So I finished 1 square for February, and the two other squares were for January. And I'll need to finish 1 more square for February to stay on task here for that knit along. So that's exciting. That is it for developing play. I don't have any knitting or crocheting finished objects, but I have a spinorama this week. And I scored on the spinorama. She shoots and she scores with a spinorama. And for those of you who maybe not familiar with hockey, a spinorama is an actual thing in hockey, and it's a little move that a player will do before he shoots the puck to confuse the defenseman and the goalie. I will try and find a clip of hopefully Jeff Skinner he's kind of renowned for the spinorama. We call it a Skinnerama in Carolina, so I'll try and find a clip of that and put it in the show notes. But I finished my spackle spinning for the Knit More Girls spackle. That is a spin along, knit along. So you spin the yarn for a sweater and then knit it. This was supposed to be completed by the end of 2012, but obviously that didn't happen for me. But I am still just chugging right along here. I finished plying those last 3 skeins during the week, and then I washed all of the skeins and gave them a nice little whack, and they're beautifully balanced. I couldn't be happier with the results. It's made all of that work worth it. You know, when you spin the same thing for almost an entire year, it kind of gets old after a while. And this was a, well, this is the yarn that I got. So it's just a heathered reddish brown. There's a little bit of green in there. This is spun from Knit Picks Wool of the Andes Roving. And I'm really very pleased with the results. Before it was washed and whacked, it felt a little bit, I don't know how else to describe it than kind of dead. It was very flat, and it didn't have any spring to it at all before I washed it. But when I washed it, it really bloomed, and I'm super happy with the result here, if you can see. That's a really good representation of the color too. I have 11 of these skeins, and just to prove, I'll show you. I have 11 of these skeins of yarn. Sorry, I keep bending out of frame, but I just want to prove that I have all of these finished skeins of yarn, and I'm not just showing you the same one over and over again. See, look at it all. Yay! Oh, there's one more in here. Maybe 2. There we go. And I think this is probably somewhere between a worsted and an Aran weight yarn. It may be up in the bulky range, I'm not sure. I won't know till I swatch. I don't really trust the wraps per inch thing because everybody does it slightly different, so I just swatch to figure out what mine are. Oh, and just to show you, I don't know if I ever did, this is what the roving looks like before you spin it. And this is actually, you know, I separated it out, and this is a little 1 ounce bump here. So, there you have it. I'm dropping yarn everywhere. Yay! I should make it rain in here. That is it for my Spinnerama. She shoots, she scores. Let's get into the first intermission. Our first intermission is the Rec League, where I will talk about knit-alongs and spin-alongs, and as I'm calling my current one, yarn-alongs. You can do any kind of fiber arts project that involves yarn. I'm doing a Valentine's Day yarn-along. And I still have not cast on my project. I know I'm hosting this knit-along, and I haven't even cast on my project yet. But there are several people who have, and it's really exciting. You can find that on my Ravelry group, Holding the Sticks. But I have finally chosen a project to cast on, and I will probably cast it on Valentine's Day. Some of you may be aware that a designer released another, actually she made one of her patterns free until Valentine's Day. I wanted to share that with you. I hope that a lot of you get to see this podcast before it expires, because it does expire on Valentine's Day. I am going to knit the True Love socks by Chrissy Gardiner. It looks like this. She has put a code up on Ravelry that you can get this pattern for free. I think it's usually $5 or $6, I forget now. It's a beautiful sock pattern, and I've been wanting to do some cabled socks for a while, so this was perfect for me. I have this Knit Picks Stroll Wine colorway. This is a Knit Picks Stroll kettle dye. I don't think they make this anymore. I just love this color. I mean, obviously, like, I'm wearing red, and I'm knitting another red sweater, and then that sweater's yarn is actually almost the exact same color as the sock yarn. You think I might like red a little bit, and all of its different shades. I love pink, too. But anyway, I'm going to knit those socks with that yarn. And let me tell you about the code for that, because it's exciting. It's always fun to get a free pattern. The download for free code on Chrissy Gardner's Ravelry store, and I'll link to that in my show notes, is True Love, all capital letters, and I'll put that on the screen here. Or if you prefer to get one of her other patterns, she has another code for 20% off of anything in her Ravelry store, and that code is Love It, and I'll put that right here too so you can see. It is good until February the 14th, so today is the 11th. You've got 3 days to take advantage of it, and that's really cool. It's a beautiful sock pattern, and she has a lot of really nice patterns too, so go check it out. As far as my knit along goes, the deadline is February the 28th to finish your projects. Any project cast on after January 1st will be eligible. Cast on, started, or spun. You can even dye yarn if you want to for this yarn along. Like I said, any project that is a yarn-based project will be qualified to win, to be entered into a drawing, and the winner will win 6 stitch markers that look like this. They are rose quartz with some iridescent seed beads and silver findings. So yay, come on in and join the fun. Hopefully I will have a calmer week this week and will be able to join the fun too. Alright, come on into the training room with me. It's time for the second period. I've had another pretty good fitness week, 10 plus miles again this week. Most of those were on the stationary bike, which was fun. I just didn't feel like doing the workout DVDs. You know, sometimes the person leading those DVDs can kind of get on your nerves. So I just stuck with the bike this week, except for yesterday when I got to go ice skating with the Charlotte Checkers, which was so much fun. It's about 45 minutes, and you know, it's pretty good exercise. So I was not really worrying, but I was thinking all week about how I was going to fit a workout in on Sunday, and then I realized I'm going ice skating. That worked out well, didn't it? I made sure to do a few good laps and not just stand around and talk the whole time. So that was how I got my mileage in. I think I didn't add it up, which I'm going to talk about here in just a minute. I didn't add up my totals yet, and I think it was 10 or 12 miles total. Of course, I don't know how far I ice skated, but I'm estimating probably about 3 miles in 45 minutes, 2 or 3, because you go pretty fast on skates. So what I was saying is that I'm not sure that this really close tracking and making posters and everything is really the best thing for me, or that it's really needed. I have so much on my plate right now that the whole tracking thing is sort of adding one more thing. It's sort of the straw that broke the camel's back. So I want to get on the bike and do my workout and finish, and then I just don't want to mess with. I know it's the simplest thing to write it down, but I just don't want to mess with it. I haven't even like put my progress on the Sock Bunny Knit and Fits fitness along to win prizes this month yet, because I don't know, just one more thing to do, I guess. I'm not really lacking in the motivation to work out most days. I had one day this week where I really had to force myself to do it. And typically when I have to do that, by the end of the workout, I feel good and happy that I did it. But this particular day, I was, at the end of the workout, I was just even more tired than when I started. But anyway, I'm starting to wonder if this is really the best thing for me to be tracking, or if I just, not that it's bad or anything, but more that maybe I just don't need to mess with it right now. Just the important thing is that I'm working out. So I'm really enjoying the whole walking and running and jogging to Rivendell thing, and that's fun. But it's just like I can't be bothered to write it down right now. So and the whole rewards thing as well. I still haven't bought my pajamas for finishing that first day, and I'm almost finished with the second day now. And just to be perfectly honest, my financial situation is such that I never know when we're going to have extra money and when we're not for things like that. So then, you know, I work out, work hard, and then supposed to buy these pajamas, but oh gee, there's, not enough money for me to do that right now, and then you have to put it off, and then it doesn't feel like it's connected with the goal you set. So I just don't know. I'm going to have to think about how I am motivating and rewarding myself for my fitness, and I'll get back to you on that. If any of you have any ideas, let me know. The whole tracking thing is really great for a lot of people, and it's been really great for me at some points in my fitness journey. But I'm at the point right now where I don't, like I said, have to force myself to work out, and it's just a habit most days, not every day. But it's just like brushing my teeth. It's just something I do, and if I don't do it, then I just don't feel right. So tell me what you think. Other than that, I wanted to talk about in the self-care segment, this is a little bit maybe off topic, but I know a lot of you start a fitness journey in order to lose weight. When I started my fitness journey, it was not to lose weight. I have lost weight, and it's wonderful, and in fact, I just put this little collage together. I'll put the picture in right here. That is me standing next to Zach Dalpe of the Charlotte Checkers about a year ago. And then that's the picture on the left. The picture on the right is me standing next to Zach Dalpe of the Charlotte Checkers yesterday. So that is the difference of 25 pounds. I'm wearing really loose clothes and everything in both of those pictures, so you can't like see the shape of me very well. But I think you can see it in my face. I know I can. In fact, it was kind of an eye-opener to see that. But anyway, I know a lot of people, when they set out to lose weight, will eat a lot of diet foods. And let me tell you what has sort of spurred this little talk. On, I believe it was it was Thursday evening, I came home from work and I had bought myself a rare treat. I got some Pop Weaver caramel microwave popcorn, and I was so excited. I love caramel anything. I adore caramel. And caramel corn is like awesome, and to have this little microwave bag makes it easy, and you can still eat it when it's warm and everything, so I was excited. I made a whole bag of this popcorn, and I put it in a bowl, and I ate the whole thing. I know. No, not the best or most healthy thing, but sometimes you eat the whole bag. Let's just be honest here. About 20 minutes later, I got this horrible, horrible headache. And having had problems in the past, I went and checked the ingredients on the popcorn, and lo and behold, there was sucralose in it. That is the chemical name for Splenda. I am very sensitive to artificial sweeteners, and this was, I guess there was a lot of it in there because, I usually have a reaction, but this was awful. I had a full-on, had to have been a migraine. I couldn't comprehend. I was watching a hockey game at the time, and I could not comprehend what the announcers were saying on TV. Like, I had to stop and think, okay, he just said that this guy hit this other guy, so the first guy's going to the penalty box. Like, I had to sit and, like, literally the wheels would turn in my brain to figure this out. It was kind of scary. And I had that terrible headache. Went to bed. I'm usually fine the next morning when this happens, but the next morning I woke up and felt like I had a hangover. I was just still had that mental fogginess and still had a headache, and I had these horrible, horrible, like, muscle aches. Kind of like what you would have if you had the flu. So that's what has spurred this whole talk about diet foods for me. Now, I don't want to tell anybody how they should or shouldn't eat, and I don't want anybody to think that I am. I'm not a nutritionist. I have zero training in nutrition. I have just done the same kind of research that most of us do when we're trying to eat a healthy diet. But I have lost my 25 pounds eating full-fat sour cream, drinking whole milk, and eating full-fat foods and real sugar. My trick, if you want to call it a trick, has been to cut back on my portion size. So I just wanted to encourage you, if you are looking to lose weight, you don't have to eat these low-fat, low-sugar or sugar-free diet foods. And in fact, some research has been done that says that those diet foods are even worse for you than the real thing. Cut back your portion sizes, eat them a little less frequently, and get moving, and that's what I've done. That isn't to say that those foods don't have their places. If you're dealing with high cholesterol or other health problems, diabetes, of course you're not going to eat real sugar, and you're not going to want to eat a lot of high-fat foods. So talk to your doctor about your diet. But just in my case, I wanted to encourage those of you who are just trying to lose weight and are pretty healthy overall. You don't have to do the whole low-fat, low-carb, low this, low that thing to do it. So I just wanted to put that out there. And, you know, it was funny. I did a little research after my whole reaction and found a lot of kind of scary things about artificial sweeteners without even really trying. I just looked up artificial sweeteners. I didn't look up like side effects or anything, and it just brought up all these scary pages. Anyway, that is enough of that. Let's get into the second intermission now. Alright, the second intermission is Around the League, where I'm going to talk about things that I'm watching, reading, listening to, etc. And this week I thought I would share with you a podcast that I listen to pretty regularly. This is a hockey podcast, and I wanted to put the warning out there that the language in this podcast is for adults only, shall we say. They curse a lot. So if that offends you, you don't want to go listen to them. If you can kind of look past that, it's a great podcast, and I really enjoy it. This is called the Backhand Shelf Podcast. It's also a blog. So if you subscribe to the blog and the podcast, you'll get multiple entries per day usually. It's located at blogs.thescore.com/NHL, and I'll put that, of course, on the screen here. It's hosted by a few guys, and they just talk hockey 5 days a week. It's usually between half an hour and 45 minutes. Sometimes it runs a little longer, sometimes it runs a little shorter. They usually break down and talk about the games from the previous night. If there were lots of games, then they'll just kind of do highlights from the exciting ones. And if there's just a few games, they'll talk about all of them. They discuss any kind of hockey news that's going on, so any trades that have happened, or if there's rumors about, different players doing this, that, or the other thing. If somebody's getting suspended, or if there was an ugly, dirty hit during a game, they'll talk about that. And one thing about these guys is they are hockey fans, and they have their team preferences, but they make it clear. They don't try and tell you that they're being completely impartial, and then you can tell, and they laugh and joke about it on the show too. They'll say, oh, I hate Montreal, but they played pretty good last night, or something like that. So it's they're pretty down to earth because of that, and it's really fun to watch. So you may want to give them a little look. They do, like I said, 5 days a week during the hockey season. They put out a podcast, and then during the summer, it was pretty intermittent this summer. I think they like to do once or twice a week on the off season, but with the lockout and everything that happened, it kind of fizzled out for a while. These guys are paid hockey writers and bloggers for the most part, so that's how they're able to do it every day. It's part of their job. So check them out, blogs.thescore.com/NHL. Time to drop the puck for the third period and a little bit of hockey talk. Well, it's going to be a little bit of a fluffier hockey talk today because I went to a Checkers game yesterday. There will be some Hockey 101 as well. I'm going to start talking about the different penalties in Hockey 101, but I'm going to talk about the Checkers game that I attended yesterday first. We have been planning on attending this game for several months. And I was afraid to mention it on the podcast because the last time I did, the plans fell through for us to go to the game. So if you watch Holly on the Sheepish podcast, you will know that hockey fans are quite superstitious. So I went with that little superstition and did not mention it on the podcast until now. So we went to Charlotte yesterday. When I go to a hockey game in Charlotte, it's a little bit of an ordeal. It is a 2.5 hour drive to Charlotte. The game typically lasts about 3 hours, and then it's another 2.5 hour drive back home. So it's not something we can do as often as I would like. As much as I would love to be a Charlotte Checkers season ticket holder, it just isn't possible. We'll just put it that way. That's a lot of time, 5 hours of driving to get to a hockey game. Totally worth it when we go. I love hockey. You know that feeling you get when you go to a fiber festival and you breathe in all the yarn fumes and you get just in this yarn haze? That's how I feel when I go to a hockey game. I absolutely love watching hockey live. I am so happy sitting in the stands watching the game. And in this particular game, we were able to go down on the ice after and skate with the team. And you want to talk about like hockey overload. I'm still kind of in a little bit of a hockey high. I just love it. I love all of it. It's so much fun. So anyway, it was a big weekend for the Checkers. They had a 2 games in 2 days against the San Antonio Rampage. And on Saturday night, they had their annual Pink in the Rink event where they raise money and awareness for breast cancer. And they wear special pink jerseys to play in, and the refs all wear like pink and black stripes instead of black and white stripes. It's pretty cool. Some teams even dye their ice pink as well. We didn't do that this year. I don't know if the Checkers ever have done that, but they didn't do it this year. They have a jersey auction after the game where you can bid on your favorite player's game-worn jersey, and the Checkers raised over $16,000 for breast cancer research and awareness with just the jersey auction. And if you think about that, there were 24, 22 guys, wearing jerseys that night, and to raise that much money, that's pretty cool. That is really cool. Kudos to the Checkers. Charlotte Checkers have always been just awesome as far as community outreach goes. So many amazing stories of how the team and the organization has helped the local community. I am so proud to be a Checkers fan. And I love the organization and the team. And that's pretty much all I can say about that. Just so proud. So we woke up Sunday morning. We got in the car about 10 a.m. We picked up some friends in Hickory, North Carolina, which is about an hour and a half drive. Fortunately, it's right on the way to Charlotte. We stopped in at IKEA and had some Swedish meatballs for lunch. So good. I love Swedish meatballs at IKEA. And then we got back in the car and went to Time Warner Cable Arena and watched the Checkers play the San Antonio Rampage. And we sat in section 117, which is right behind the goal. And it's the goal where the Charlotte Checkers attack twice during the game. Goalies switch sides during the game. First period, the goalie will start on one end, and then the second period he'll go to the other end, and the third period he'll go to the other end. So the end I was sitting on was the end where the Checkers attack twice. And it was great seats. I was a little bit worried. I shouldn't have been, because when I sat in the lower bowl with Mom at a Hurricanes game, we had similar seats in the PNC Arena back behind the goal. We were up just high enough that we were above the glass, so I could hear a lot of what was going on the ice, which was really cool. If you sit below the level of the glass, you don't hear as much of what's going on. on the ice. And it's a whole different dimension. It's super fun to sit right on the glass and be so close, but it's really fascinating to be just high enough that you can also hear what the referees are shouting, what the players are shouting, and all that sort of thing as well. So I was really happy with our seats, and there will be pictures. I may insert some here, or there'll definitely be some in the beginning or end. I never know where I'm going to put the pictures from week to week, so just stay tuned if you haven't already seen them. But I'll go ahead and put a picture in of my view from my seats right here. I recorded the intro during the after game skate, and my husband was such a good sport and we actually recorded an intro in the stands before the game, but it was so loud that I was literally shouting at the camera and you still couldn't really hear me. So I decided that we would do it again when I was down on the ice after the game. On ice skates and everything. Y'all be so proud of me. I was ice skating. It had been almost a year since I've been on skates, so I was a little worried, but I actually did really well. But what happens is, well, the important thing first, the Checkers won the game. I'm all over the place. I'm just still so excited from having gone. In my favorites, Zach Dalpe scored a goal, which is always fun. I always get extra excited when he scores a goal. And Mikhail Jordan also scored a goal. You hear me saying their names differently because after the game, when we were able to go down and skate with the team, you of course are able to approach the players, get autographs, photos, ask them questions, and that sort of thing. Well, my husband is of Czech descent. His grandfather was Czech, and so he's always super fascinated by players from the Czech Republic. And so he wanted to know for sure how to pronounce what Mikhail Jordan's name. That's how our radio announcers pronounce it. But Fox, my husband, said, I don't think that's right. So I want to ask him how he says it. He did the same thing with Zach Dalpe because our two radio announcers, the play-by-play guy and the color commentator, one of them says Dalpe and the other says Dalpe. And so Fox wanted to know, which one is it? And it turns out Mikhail Jordan in his home country is Mikhail Jordan. And Zach Dalpe is actually, it was funny because he's like, I don't know what you're asking me. And I said, well, is it Dalpe or Dalpe? And he said, actually, it's Dalpe, French Canadian. He's like, it's French Canadian, yo. It's pretty funny. He's such a super nice guy. And he said, but you can pronounce it Dalpe if you want. It's fine. So I'm going to try and pronounce it the correct way. I'm not sure why the camera just stopped, but it did. But as I was saying, Zach Dalpe said to pronounce his name Dalpe. That's the correct pronunciation and that it's French Canadian. So I'm going to try really hard to do that. I think it's important that you pronounce people's names correctly because it's not that hard, usually. I mean, the difference between, and some people even say Michael Jordan instead of Mikhail Jordan. And then it's not that hard to go one extra step and say Mikhail Jordan. It's just a respect thing to me. I think that it's important that when it's possible we try to say people's names correctly. Sometimes it's not possible because you're not able to ask the person, but I think it's pretty cool that we were able to ask Mikhail Jordan and Zach Dalpe how to say their names. But I know that Zach Dalpe is not going to be with the Checkers for much longer. He has scored goals in both of the last two games since he's been sent back down from the Hurricanes. It's just a matter of time. He's going to get called back up to the Hurricanes and he's going to stick, and it's going to happen soon. So typically once I've already met a player, gotten their autograph and maybe a photo or whatever, I don't approach them again at the after game skates unless I just, say hi in passing or want to tell them, hey, nice goal, or that was a great play, they were in the second period or something like that. But it was my last chance. Zach Dalpe is my favorite player he's right up there. Cam Ward was my first favorite hockey player when I first became a fan. Um, and Zach Dalpe has been, climbing up. He's pretty much even with Cam Ward now. I love the kid. He's an awesome hockey player, and he's amazing and fun to watch. And he's a nice guy. That's really important too, for me anyway. I can't really get behind and cheer for somebody who's a jerk. But, so I was able to get another autograph from Zach, and I had him. If you all are familiar with the silver Sharpie markers, the Charlotte Checkers jersey that I own is actually black. Let me get it real quick. I'm just going to go out of frame for a second. Hopefully I don't knock anything over. Okay. You've seen this before because I've worn it on the podcast before. This is the only Charlotte Checkers jersey that I own. And in order to get autographs on it, they pretty much have to use a black Sharpie or a silver Sharpie. Those are not nearly as waterproof as the black Sharpies. They will fade away a lot quicker than the black Sharpie will. I have a ton of autographs on the back of this from all different players on the Checkers. If you see the one that says Bug, where is it? Here we go. Here's Bug's signature is right here. And that's a very heartwarming story that I will tell eventually, but he was a little boy when I got this signature, but over the last year he's turned into a teenager. He's definitely not a little boy anymore. But he is a very special story that the team has helped him with medical bills and things like this. I'll tell that story at a later date. It was actually on national news last year. But he was the first one to sign my jersey. And then all the different guys on the team over the last couple of years have signed back here. And you can see where they're starting to fade. I got a couple of more last night. But I don't buy a jersey just to hang it on the wall. And some people do that, and that's fine, but that's not how I roll. I buy a jersey to wear it. And I will wear the heck out of it, and I will wash it and wear it again. I don't wash this as often as I would wash a t-shirt, but there are 3 or 4 times a year that I wash a jersey. I wash it if it starts to smell. I will wash it if the team has been on a losing streak. There's that hockey superstition again, and I totally know that what I do or don't do has nothing to do with the team winning or not, but it's just a hockey culture thing. That's the only way I can describe it and explain it. If the team is on a losing streak, I'll wash the jersey. It washes the bad mojo out and hopefully, helps the team do better. Yeah, I know. I wash it at the end of each season. And if weird things have happened during the off season, I'll wash it again before the new season starts. So there's that. So what I did, because I knew this would probably be my last chance to talk to Zach Dalpe, was I asked him to sign my sleeve on the lighter part of the jersey with a black Sharpie. And there it is. It was fun. It was really fun. And Fox, my husband, got a picture of him doing this, and that'll be in the credits either before or after the show. But so now I have one that's not going to fade. Because he also signed the back of this, and he signed a red Checkers t-shirt that I have as well, but because I wear that t-shirt and wash that t-shirt so much, it's starting to fade off of that too. So now I have one that's not going to fade, and when he makes the big time and is a big star, I will be able to say, I knew him when. So there's my jersey. But I had so much fun, obviously, at this game, and I'm sorry I haven't, talked any stats or anything like that during the hockey talk today, but I just wanted to share the good time that I had. Our friends Rob and Cole came with us, and just much fun was had. And Cole actually got out on ice skates. I was super proud of him. It was his first time, and he did really well. In fact, I was like, this is not your first time on ice skates. There's no way this is your first time on ice skates. Because he wasn't, slipping and sliding or anything. He must have got a good pair of rental skates. Because usually when you get rental skates, they're all dull and they're harder to skate on. I don't know. Kid's a natural. He should have been a hockey player, maybe. And Rob decided that since he had tried skating in the past, that he would sit out, thank you very much, and play it safe. So I totally understand that. And he got some really fun pictures of my husband and me, and I'm really thankful that he did that for us. So thank you so much, Rob, for doing that. Okay, Hockey 101. It's going to be a little bit of a shorter segment today because I knew I would blabber on and on about going to the Checkers game. And sorry if I'm a little hoarse today. You might notice I might sound a little funny. I don't know. Just from yelling and screaming at the game yesterday. I apologize for that if it is distracting. But I don't think it's too bad. The Hockey 101 today is all about penalties. I'm just going to start with two. There are several. There are bunches and bunches of penalties, so it's going to take several episodes to get through all of the penalties that can be called in a hockey game. Some of them are called more frequently. Some of them are called less frequently. Some of these I have never even heard of before, so, that's one of the reasons I wanted to do this segment, is that I could learn too. So I'm going to start with minor penalties. If you are called for a minor penalty during a hockey game, you will sit in the penalty box for 2 minutes, and your team will be shorthanded for 2 minutes, or until the other team scores. If you're sitting in the penalty box and the other team scores on your goalie, then the penalty is over. That's the whole point, is that you want to give the other team an extra advantage to try and score because of the rule that you broke. So, excuse me. First penalty I want to talk about, I'm going to do all minor penalties at first. Some minor penalties can be upgraded if you injure the player that you did the penalty on. So, I'll talk about those as I get to them as well. So I'm going to do two today. The first penalty I want to talk about is boarding. And boarding is when you push or check a defenseless player so that they collide violently into the boards. The boards are the walls that surround the ice rink, the hockey rink. So basically what I've heard from commentators and just from reading and stuff like that is hockey players are taught from a very young age, and some of these guys start at age 3 and 4. So from a very young age, these players are taught, do not check a player into the glass or into the walls if you can see the numbers on their jersey. Hockey players only have numbers on their backs. So basically you don't want to shove a player face first into the wall. That's what boarding is when you shove a player face first into the wall. So there are some penalties in hockey where you can kind of defend breaking that rule. If a guy's about to score on your goalie and you trip them or something like that, that's defensible. But to board a player, push him into the wall like that, it happens accidentally sometimes, but there is never any call to do that on purpose because it is a dangerous play and people can get hurt very badly going face first into the wall. If you watch hockey, you will notice some players all the players have to wear a helmet. Some players will wear a clear visor that covers from about, some of them will come all the way down to here, and some of them are kind of up here, and they're clear that you can see through. That's a requirement now in the AHL, the American Hockey League. That's the league the Checkers play in. The NHL does not require the visors, so several NHL players still just wear the helmet. So you can imagine the way a hockey rink is built. It's kind of like a wall, and the glass is put into the wall so that there is a little bit of a shelf that juts out, just a little bit. And you can imagine if you hit your head or your face into that ledge, it doesn't feel good even just to hit it into the flat part, but, bones are broken and there are brain injuries and all kinds of things that can happen. So Boarding to me is one of those penalties that is just never excusable. It does happen accidentally, like I said, sometimes. If you board somebody, push them into the wall like that, and they get up and skate away and they're fine, it's a 2-minute minor penalty. If you board someone like that and they get up and they're bleeding, you're going to get at least a 4-minute penalty. Double minor, or yes, double minor penalty. If they're bleeding, if you hurt them badly enough, you can even be kicked out of the game. So, and if they think that you intended to hurt that player, then even bigger things can happen, suspensions and things like that. So, it's one of those pretty common. I mean, it's called in a lot of games. So that's one you're going to hear a lot when you're watching hockey, boarding. The second penalty I was going to talk about today is called broken stick. I've never heard this one called. At least I've never heard it called broken stick. Excuse me. I'm sorry about that. Too much screaming yesterday. The broken stick penalty is that if you break your hockey stick and you keep trying to play with it, then they'll call this penalty on you because it's dangerous to play with a broken stick. There are very, very few, if any, professional hockey players left today that play with a wooden stick. The ones that do are usually goalies. The skaters usually use a composite stick. When they break, they're very jaggedy. In fact, in the last couple of weeks, I don't remember who the player was, but he broke his stick during a practice, actually throwing a bit of a temper tantrum from what I understand. Broke his stick and a splinter went in his eye from it. So that's really scary. That's why you can't play with a broken stick. It's dangerous. So that is also why you will see guys drop their sticks on the ice when they're broken instead of skating them over to the bench or whatever. They're basically trained to drop their sticks right away so they're not tempted to play the puck with a broken stick and therefore get a penalty, and then their team is on the penalty kill and shorthanded for 2 minutes. So there you go. Those are the first two penalties. Like I said, the penalties, there are several of them, and it's going to take several episodes to get through them all. So I may, take a break from it now and then and talk about something else. I'm always open to anything if you guys have questions about hockey. I love to answer those. And sometimes I have to answer them for myself, too. So it's always fun. That's it for the third period. Let's get into some post-game chatter. Let's get into some post-game chatter, shall we? First, I want to say Happy Valentine's Day to everybody. I didn't remember to say that at the beginning. We don't celebrate Valentine's Day very much. Maybe, just a little box of chocolates or something like that. It's not one of our major things, so I don't think about it really most of the time. I guess really the going to the Checkers game yesterday was my Valentine's celebration with my husband, even though we brought some friends with us. We're not real picky about such things. So, I mean, about it being like a candlelit romantic dinner or whatever. In fact, I think we both prefer the excitement and fun of a hockey game to that. But because of the Valentine's holiday, work has been very interesting lately. It started, this time of year is generally slow here in the high country for any business, and it's no exception for us. Things were extremely slow early in the week. In fact, I think I had one day where I had one client that day, so I only did one massage the whole day. And then later in the week, as we're getting closer to Valentine's Day, we were so busy, absolutely slammed. And those times are kind of fun for me, actually, because the day goes a lot faster, and it's like a challenge, I guess, because you've got to work hard to stay on schedule, make sure everybody is taken care of, and also make sure that you are taken care of. So, I'm juggling trying to get new clients in the room on the hour, and then I get a little break in the middle, and I make sure I get something nutritious to eat that will sustain me through the next couple of hours. So it was fun on Saturday, and we have several couples massages, which adds a whole nother dimension into things. Couples tend to take a little bit longer getting ready, getting on the table for their massages, and they tend to take a little bit longer getting up from their massages. So, you always try and factor that in when you're scheduling to try and make sure everybody stays on schedule. And we had a little bit of a fail with that on Saturday, but we made it work. We always manage. So it was just very busy but fun at the same time. So that will continue probably through this week and into next weekend. The straggler couples coming in to celebrate their Valentine's Day. And it'll be fun. And it's good to have this little boost right in the middle of a slow season. So, because it's been a little bit slow, which happens often in this line of work, I decided to take on a little bit of extra work. My husband's boss sent some data entry stuff home with him and said, "Will your wife do this for me?" And I said, "Okay, sure, I'll do it." But that means that I have been very absent, or more absent than usual, on social media and on Ravelry, because it's probably about 8 hours worth of work. Probably not that much, but the time that I would usually spend catching up on Ravelry and answering messages and going on Plurk and reading through everybody's updates and everything, and on Twitter, the time I would have spent doing that, I've been spending getting this data entry work done. So I hope I haven't missed replying to anybody, because often I'll read things and then say, okay, I'll have to answer this later because I'm busy. I hope I didn't miss anybody's messages. If I did, please let me know. Just give me a little shoulder tap on Ravelry or Twitter or Plurk and say, hey, what about me? What am I, chopped liver? Because you're not chopped liver. I appreciate every single message that I get, and they make me smile. So definitely let me know if I've forgotten you. It was not intentional. I've just been very busy. And also just with different things, getting ready to go on our trip to Atlanta, trying to keep the house in some kind of order, that sort of thing has just kept me a bit busy. So if ever you write to me and I don't get back to you right away, please don't take it personally. It's usually just something going on with me. So I have been feeling a little bit overwhelmed lately by everything, so that too has contributed to the fact that I've kind of drawn back a little bit from the internet. Just hang in there with me. This time of year I get a little bit blue maybe, the seasonal type stuff that happens to a lot of us. So I'm doing fine. I have had struggles with full-on clinical depression in the past, and that's terrible and awful, and I stay on guard against it and do everything I can to not let myself go there. But I'm in that place where I am having to be very vigilant to make sure that I am taking good care of myself, to make sure I'm not going to slip down into that horrible pit again. And, I'm a big proponent for reaching out for help when you're feeling that way. I think our society tends to gloss it over too much, or people who suffer from depression tend to hide the fact that they are. And just over the past several years, I've seen so many celebrities, former hockey players especially, lose their lives to this terrible disease of depression. And I think that those of us who suffer from it need to stand up for ourselves and our rights. And I don't know if our rights is really the right way to put it, but to reach out for help when we need it and not hide and try and gloss it over. Because the more we reach out, the more likely that we're going to get the help we need and be able to get better. And I guess that's my little soapbox. I have to have a soapbox every time I podcast, don't I? So that's my soapbox for today, I suppose. I'm sitting here knitting on Mork, and it's funny because, I told you that I can knit this while I watch hockey and not have to look at it, but it seems like since I'm sitting here talking, I am having to look. Maybe because I can't talk and count in my head at the same time, but I can listen or watch TV and count in my head at the same time. I don't know. The brain is an amazing thing, isn't it? But anyway, until next time, may all of your fiber arts projects and your favorite hockey teams stay out of the penalty box. Bye bye.